Hi guys, hey, today we're out in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. We're talking about jealousy. Ooh, nobody likes that emotion. And jealousy is about not having enough, or at least we don't think we have enough. So we see that our neighbor has something and we have to go and get the exact same thing or something just a little bit better. And we just become these mass consumers with this voracious appetite. And we're hoping that by doing that, that will make us feel better. And maybe for some people it will. For a while, right? Because it doesn't make you feel better forever. In Chinese medicine, the 5 elements are all related to some type of nature. And they are also related to each of the 5 yin organs. And so to learn more about the yin organs, I have a couple videos out here. You know, hit the information button up here at the top, and it'll show you some other videos that you can go to that will tell you about the 5 yin organs. But each of these 5 yin organs, they're attached to an element in Chinese medicine. So they're attached to nature in Chinese medicine. And jealousy is an emotion of deficiency in the earth channel and excess in the wood channel. And so what does that mean? So the earth channel is about our foundation, is about what lets us grow. It's about how supportive our soil was. And so for a forest, earth is so important. And that's where we get the trees. We up here get these beautiful ferns. And then there's wood. And wood is about our ability to expand and express ourselves. And so here in the forest, we have so many trees. And you know, the trees up here can get huge. They can get over 250 feet. So when we talk about growing up and expanding and expressing ourselves, the trees up here, they can do it. So what does that mean for us as a person? So great. So now I've heard about earth and I've heard about wood. What does that mean for jealousy? So jealousy is an amazing emotion of feeling that we don't have enough. And that is really about our foundation. That's really about what earth gives to us. It gives us a foundation to say that I'm good enough. And, you know, life happens. It happens. We try to be the best people we can be, but we can't be great people all the time. And, you know, and people are people, you know, they have their own demons that they're working through. So when I watch kids being brought up, one of the most common ways that I see that the foundation is not enough is whenever this is a perfect example. So when you see a little kid go run up to their mom or their dad who's doing absolutely nothing and they go, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I have something to share with you." And the parent does one of these things. Like it's too big a bother to listen to you, like you're not important enough to be listened to. Or, you know, what's the other one? Where a child wants to try something and maybe it's not what the parent wants them to do, or maybe the parent had different hopes and dreams for themselves. Sports are probably the biggest winner here, where, you know, maybe the parent wanted to be a better athlete than they were, and now they're giving it to their child, and their child gets to try and live out all the dreams that, you know, the parent didn't get to do. That's about not having a strong enough, that's about not being supported for your own personality. That's supporting somebody else's personality. So it's all these little things that happen to us, and what ends up happening is our foundation on who we think we are, how valuable we think we are, gets impaired. And we start to tell ourselves stories like, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that, or I shouldn't try to do those things. We tell ourselves stories about not being enough. And when we tell ourselves those stories, what we want to do is we want to fill up that big empty hole with stuff. And so then we think if we buy more stuff, or if we get more stuff, it will be great and everything will be fine. And so when we see our neighbors with more stuff than we have, we think, well, maybe if I get the same stuff they have, then I will have their life. Okay, first off, we don't even know what their life is, and we think it's always so much better than ours. We have this tendency to give everybody but ourselves this beautiful life, and that this beautiful life just popped up in their world, that they didn't have to work for it, that they didn't have to do anything for it. And so when we see people with more stuff, we equate that to a better life, and we think, oh gosh, if I can get more stuff, I am going to have a better life and everything's going to be okay. And then you get more stuff and you're like, I still feel the same way. It's about the lack of the foundation of earth in your world. It's the lack of believing in yourself. It's the lack of thinking you're good enough. And so what ends up happening is, one, you start to have jealousy for everybody else because you think they have just so much more, so much better. And then you start having this kind of resentment, which is such a wood pathology. So, you know, there's a positive expression of wood, there's a negative expression of wood. There's a positive expression of earth, there's a negative expression of earth. And when we start showing anger or resentment because somebody else has what we think is more than what we have, that is a negative expression of wood, and that's jealousy that had its foundation in growing up and learning that we were not enough, or we were not good enough. And, you know, so yeah, that sucks. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, I wanted to share one of my stories of jealousy because, you know, we're coming up into a recession again, and you know, we're going to get to experience this again. And I used to work in technology, and you know, technology was a party. It was an awesome ride, and you know, and then it crashed. And I remember after the first crash, you know, getting laid off, which, you know, everybody was getting laid off. It was such an insane time. And, you know, I remember my husband and I, we would go to Costco to just pick up the bare minimum, because let's be real, you go to Costco and you sneeze and you blow $200 easily. And so when you're unemployed though, you know, you don't have $200 to just sneeze and blow away. And in fact, you usually barely have enough money to buy food. And in Washington, well, I was in Oregon at that time, and let me tell you, max unemployment at that time, you know, barely paid utilities. So it was really based on what our savings were, and then unemployment really, it was nice to have. I would have preferred to have it than not, but it really didn't pay anything. And so I went from one day being very, very comfortable and having a fun job and having a great life to the next day suddenly being unemployed, suddenly having to figure out how to make your bills get met until you find your next job, understanding that there's been a mass wipeout in the technology market, and so there's not a lot of jobs out there. So for me, it was really, really super stressful, and that period of time, I think it lasted maybe 6 months or so, and let's be real, most people don't have 2 weeks of excess money. We were just lucky because we were hardcore savers, but let's be real, your savings, that wasn't going to last too long. Everything's really expensive today. We had a house payment, we had our utilities, we had our car payments. I mean, we had to cut out everything. You ended up cutting out your yard service, who's ever cleaning your house, because, oh, surprise, now you have time. You're at home all the time, so you can actually do those things. But you end up cutting out all your services. Oh, Starbucks goes away, and you're not eating steaks anymore, let me tell you that. And sometimes even hamburgers too much. But you end up doing this huge cutback to try and survive until your next job. Here's the thing. I remember going into Costco and seeing all these people they were buying everything. I mean, their carts, and their carts are kind of big. Their carts were like filled to the brim with crap. And they were just randomly picking things, that they don't really need, that are just fun to have. And I so get that, because just the day before I was doing that, and oh my gosh, the amount of jealousy that I had walking through there, I just hated it. And it got to the point where I'm like, we can't go shop at Costco anymore. I can't do it. That totally sucks. Here's the other thing about that. I guess it was a great learning experience though too, because it made me a better person. It definitely helped me understand the concept of needs versus wants. And after I survived that tumultuous period in our economy, I really did change the way that I addressed the world, that I bought stuff. And I started to realize that I didn't need half that crap that I had. And I think that was probably pretty beneficial, because, when I had to take care of my mom, so I ended up being a caregiver for my mother. And, and then I was also doing support for my sister. And I lost both of them a year ago, and that's still super hard on me. But because I had already learned this story of needs and wants, when we picked up my mother, we were able to have the funds necessary to take care of her. We had her come and live with us, and surprise, it's actually really expensive to have someone come and live with you. I didn't think it was going to be expensive, but it actually is really expensive. So, and if you want to learn more about caregiving, how to help yourself survive caregiving, some of the things that you want to be proactive about when you're caregiving, look for my book, Caregiver's Survival Guide, on Amazon. It has a wealth of great information, all of that which I learned in the 3-year period that I was taking care of my mother. I can tell you, one, that population is very independent still. So, there was that independence thing that made it really, really tough. But it was very expensive to take care of them. And it was that story, learning that story between needs and wants, that we had the money to support my mother through that whole period of time. And so there is a positive side to jealousy. I mean, if you get to the other side of it, there's some positive things to know about it. But let's talk about what we can do to help ourselves through that hideous period of our lives, okay? Okay, so what can you do about jealousy? So the key thing is relaxing. How do we get to the point where we can relax and we can be here at this point, at this time, right now? Because if you just stop and think about it, you're sitting here watching me, you're watching me out there in TV land or in YouTube land, and think about it just right now at this exact moment. There's nothing wrong. You know, so what does that mean? Because you might be saying, I've got all these bills, my child's sick, my car broke down, I don't have a job. Yeah, okay, you have all those things. It's fine. That's fine. That's fine. You have all those things. But right now, at this exact moment, none of those are impacting you. So you don't have a job. Well, okay, you don't have a job. It doesn't mean you're going to die today, because, you might still have food in the cabinet. Your electricity is still on. There might be all these other things. At this exact moment, there's nothing wrong. Now, not having a job for a long time, right? That's a future thing. I mean, in the future, that can be a lot of problems. And, just listening to my story, it was a 6-month story of absolutely no fun. And it was a lot of problems. It was like we were getting to the point of, mortgage is getting tight to make it. But I can tell you, every day that I could pay that mortgage was a day that I did not, at that exact moment, I did not have a problem. And that's about the here and now. That's about being here at this exact moment in your life, not in your future, not in your past. So not thinking about my car's broken and all these hideous things that are happening, not thinking about any of that, because your car's broken now, it's going to be broken in a few minutes, but it doesn't impact this exact moment for you. And it will impact you. Like, you might be going, well, I don't know how I'm going to get to work on Monday, but Monday's a few days off, so worrying about Monday isn't going to make Monday any better. So the first thing about learning to relax is learning how to get to the here and the now. And in Chinese medicine, it's really about the breath. And in all of the meditations, they always talk about breath, and some of them even talk to you about breath exercises that you can do. And because when you breathe, that is the one thing that your body does that is 100% about being here right now. And so when you focus on your breath, you start to train your mind to focus on the present, this exact instant, not worrying about what's going to be in the future, not feeling pain for the past. You focus on this exact instant. And in this exact instant, at every time in our lives, it's peaceful. So the first thing you want to do is focus on breath. Let's be real, life's pretty stressful, and I can tell you, after my caregiving excursion, the stress was insane. And I couldn't even focus on my breath for one breath. And so the next thing that you do in Chinese medicine is you use nature to support yourself. 5-element theory. It's all about nature. And it's all about understanding which nature you can use to help calm that emotion, which is ripping up your life. you know, which is causing you all sorts of havoc. And in this one, it's jealousy. And in this one, going out into a forest is one of the greatest things that you can do. And it has to be an older forest. You can't go into the new forest. They're too young. If you go into an older forest, and you can see right behind me, this tree is 60 years old. That one back there is probably 80 years old. It's really amazing to stand with them. You know, you're just like, wow, and they're so much taller than me. So walking out into a forest, their energy is so solid and so sedated. That's really was, for me, the first way to start breaking that nonsense, that endless chatter that was going on in my head after everything was done with my mother and my sister. And, you know, even to this day, I still work at it. It's only been a little over a year. So I still work through the stress and that. And one of the places that I love to go is the forest, especially when my emotions might be getting unruly about things, about having things, like you have to have everything. So when I start getting unruly and I think things are going to make my life better, I like coming out here. And if you come out here enough, you start getting quiet, and you can even practice your breath out here. It's a whole heck of a lot easier to practice it out here with the trees. We've got some young crows up in the trees right now. I don't know if you can hear them. They're really loud. So that's what I would recommend to you. Two things: breath and the forest. And if you can find an older forest, good. You will have a great time there. So, hey, thanks you guys for coming out and checking out my YouTube channel. Thanks for coming out to the forest with me. What a great walk this was. Really enjoyed having you here. So until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.